Hello VHS, Mrs. Alvarado and I are joining you today to host an important session on human trafficking. We hope the information presented today helps you stay physically safe.
Today we hope you walk away from this very important session knowing what human trafficking is, what human trafficking looks like, how to protect yourself from traffickers, and how to report suspected human trafficking.
Let's get started by determining exactly what human trafficking is.
What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It is the exploitation of a person through force, fraud, or coercion. Human smuggling and human trafficking are different crimes. Human smuggling is the illegal movement of someone across a border. Human trafficking is the illegal exploitation of a person. Human trafficking is about exploitation, not transportation. Human trafficking is a highly profitable crime and a violation of human rights. It occurs in every part of the world, including here in the United States. It happens in our big cities, our suburbs, and even in rural towns. It can happen to anyone. Human trafficking victims can be U.S. citizens or from other countries. Victims can be any age, race, or gender, but one thing they share is that they are vulnerable to being exploited. There are different types of human trafficking, including sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude. Sex trafficking victims are manipulated or forced against their will to engage in sex acts for money. Sex traffickers might use violence, threats, manipulation, or the promise of love and affection to lure victims. Truck stops, hotel rooms, rest areas, street corners, clubs, private residences. These are just some of the places where victims are forced to sell sex. Any person under the age of 18 involved in a commercial sex act is considered a victim of human trafficking. No exceptions. Forced labor takes on many forms, and it happens here in the US and overseas. Through force, fraud, or coercion, victims are made to work for little or no pay. Very often, these victims are forced to manufacture or grow the products that we use and consume every day. Victims of forced labor could be found in factories, on farms, doing construction work, and more. Victims of domestic servitude are hidden in plain sight, forced to work in homes across the United States. Their traffickers sometimes take their identification papers and travel documents in order to limit their freedom. They are prisoners, working as nannies, maids, or domestic help. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many more go unnoticed. That's because human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward, or we may not recognize the signs, even if it's happening right in front of us. We need to bring this crime out of the shadows. That's why the Department of Homeland Security created the Blue Campaign, to take a stand against modern-day slavery and help combat this heinous crime by raising awareness of human trafficking around the country. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. So what can you do to stop human trafficking? Visit the Blue Campaign website to learn more about the signs and indicators of human trafficking. Share this video on social media to help bring this crime out of the shadows. Be an informed consumer. Know who makes the products you buy and the food you eat to help keep slavery-tainted items out of your home. And finally, recognize and report suspected human trafficking. You can submit a tip to federal law enforcement online or by phone. For victim support, you can call or text the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Help us bring this crime out of the shadows and into the light. Join the Blue Campaign. One voice, one mission, end human trafficking.
Whether it involves forced labor, domestic servitude, or sex trafficking in person or online, human trafficking is human exploitation. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and human trafficking is a crime.
In the next 4 videos, you will see actors depicting human trafficking scenarios specifically produced and filmed to educate people about the dangers of falling victim to human trafficking and to raise awareness of how to recognize the signs in hopes to prevent and stop this crime. The first video is all too real. In this scenario, you will see an underage student who is exploited through a random stranger he encounters while playing video games online. As you watch this video, consider the ways he could have protected himself from falling victim to human exploitation.
Sorry?
So, test papers from last week. Some of them good, some of them not so good. I think we all need to improve before the real thing. In a couple of weeks, thank you. That was excellent. That was all right. Have a look at comments on there. That needs work, as does that. That was okay. Nelson, I don't know what's going on here. Can you see me after the lesson, please? That was excellent. Good. Comments on that, I think that needs work. That was excellent. Okay, so, characterisation and criticism for next week, please. Everyone. Nelson. Nelson.
You have one job. Yeah, goalkeeper. Put it stuck in the net. Joel.
Unfortunately, the scenario depicted here is all too real. Remember, human trafficking is human exploitation. How are you protecting yourself from this type of risk? Really think about how easily that exploitation happened.
In this next scenario, you will see a depiction of how sex trafficking can happen to a high school age student. You'll see a 15-year-old girl who is using social media and is contacted by a random cute guy. What he leads her to do is certainly not what she expected. As you watch this video, consider the ways she could have protected herself from falling victim to this type of human exploitation. Let's watch and see how easily this can happen.
Okay, everyone can Can anyone tell me what the different chromosome is for a male versus a female? Yes.
XX is female and XY is male.
Correct?
This is totally up here.
No, it's down. It's right here. That's important. We're trying to study. What is this?
Nothing.
What is this? What are you
Nothing.
doing?
It's nothing.
Who is that?
Nobody.
Who is that? Who are you texting?
Nobody.
So you didn't tell your parents that you were coming over here tonight, right?
Get off me! What the hell is your problem?
Hey. It's gonna be fun. Come over here.
Again, another very real example of how someone your age could fall victim to human exploitation. In this case, specifically, sex trafficking. How could this 15-year-old have protected herself from this situation? How about you? Are your actions, activities in person and online keeping you safe from these dangers? How about the friends you keep? Are they safe? How about your siblings?
In this third scenario, you will see an example of how forced labor happens. Remember, forced labor is human exploitation. It's human trafficking. Watch how a pair of happy siblings end up in a very dangerous situation.
Oye, muchacha, ven conmigo. Te quedas aquí. Sí.
beca escolar.
Es todo lo que tenemos.
Cambiame el dinero.
Pórtate bien, por favor. Hola. Aquí no podemos ir. ¡Ey! ¡No me toques!
As you saw, the brother and sister were promised an education, but soon realized they fell victims to forced labor, an all too real form of human trafficking. This type of human trafficking really hits home for me. Back home in the Texas Panhandle, a beef packing plant was actually closed down by federal agents due to this very thing. Here's the bottom line. Federal law prohibits anyone from obtaining the labor or services by anyone by force, threats of force, means and threats of harm, including financial, or threat of abuse of legal process. If you see something, say something.
In our last scenario, you will see how people fall victim to domestic servitude. Again, there is a promise of something to a vulnerable person. However, all too soon, this person realizes the promises are empty promises, and she is trapped as a domestic servant.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, hi. Come on in. If you need anything, we'll be in the other room.
Thank you.
This should have been done already.
You're so careless and clumsy. Can't you remember anything like budget?
Handa ka na ba sa trabaho na to?
I've got a feeling Ano nga ang pangalan? O yan, tikman mo yan. Para sa'yo.
Basta ka na. Kung nga pala si Randy, excited ka.
Head southeast on West Harbor Drive toward London.
What took you so long to get inside?
Akin na. Ako na muna magtatay. Honey?
This is your room and this is your bed.
This can't keep going on like this.
This fourth example may seem further from what most of us experience. However, that does not make it any less real. Domestic servitude is human exploitation and preys on vulnerable people who are usually always promised a better life or opportunity.
Traffickers often prey on victims with little or no social safety net. They look for victims who are vulnerable because of their lack of social or family support systems, unstable housing, previous traumatic experiences or abuse, immigration status, limited English proficiency, and inability to decipher exploitive situations. Traffickers recognize these factors, and along with other risk factors that may make someone more likely to take risks to access opportunities and stability. Youth may also be targeted by traffickers simply because they are young and may be less equipped to make informed and sound decisions when presented with a situation that may lead to trafficking. Who are traffickers? There is no single face of traffickers. They can be any gender, age, or race. To victims, they can be a a romantic partner, employers, community leaders, family members, friends or peers, strangers, or just be connected by mutual friends. In some cases, there is no trafficker controlling or benefiting from youth victims, but only the buyer who is committing a crime. Based on federal law, minors under the age of 18 cannot consent to a commercial sex act. So once this occurs, they are considered a victim of this crime. Where are traffickers reaching victims? Traffickers often go to locations where they can reach vulnerable individuals. Some of these locations include social media, online and dating apps. Targeting youth online has become an increasingly common tactic among traffickers. They look for vulnerable young people who are receptive to their advances. Popular meeting places include locations where youth may frequent, such as malls, parks, concerts, community centers, public transit centers, and house gatherings. Schools. Peer-to-peer recruitment may take place in schools. This is when traffickers coerce or force their victims into recruiting their peers with promises of more payment, better status, or less abuse. Group homes, detention centers, shelters, and foster care homes. Traffickers know that individuals at these locations are experiencing hardships, and they can play to those challenges by offering financial or emotional support to gain trust. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many more go unnoticed. Human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward, or we may not recognize the signs, even if it is happening right in front of us. We need to bring this crime out of the shadows.
Thank you, Deputy Sullivan. Whether you see it or not, human trafficking is happening in our communities, right here in Florida, right in front of our eyes. Take a second look.
The signs are everywhere. Sometimes you just have to take a second look.
I didn't choose this life. I don't want to be sold every night.
Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and it happens in our own communities. It happens in plain sight, but can be hard to identify.
They took my passport. They say they will hurt me if I call the cops.
Victims can be any gender, age, or race.
I was promised an education. Instead, I work long hours for no pay.
So take a second look. Join the Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign to learn how to recognize and report this heinous crime. Your second look could be their second chance.
Human trafficking is a real danger, and traffickers don't discriminate. Protect yourself, VHS. Anyone can become a victim.
That's certainly true. And here are the various national hotlines and contacts for reporting human trafficking or ways to get help. We recommend that you take a screenshot of these numbers and save it to your phone. As we always say, if you see something, say something. You may just save a life.
We truly hope you now know more than you did before about the dangers of human trafficking. Let's see what you've learned.
Please complete the human trafficking post-test. Your teacher will provide you the link. That's it for now, VHS. Stay safe.